Hello there. I'm Scotty. You're not. Welcome back to Birth Month. It's day 7 of Birth Month, and we're talking about Cool World. That's right. Released in 1992, the year my sister was born. And, okay, so as I was watching this, one thought went across my. Come on. One thought went across my mind. I was allowed to watch this. This is not something you should show to kids. I mean, you could, they won't understand it. And I guess maybe I didn't understand it. I just saw cartoons, but the way that things are animated, especially Hollywood, spelled HOLLIWOULD. Yeah. Played by Kim Basinger. Whatever. She's not animated for children, I tell you that much. And the plot. So, in the 1940s, a man named Frank accidentally has an accident with his mother on a motorcycle. After which he is sucked into what Cool World by this professor guy. 47 years later, a convict named Jack is released from prison after supposedly murdering the man that his wife was cheating on him with. Supposedly. He is now being thrust back and forth in the Cool World by Miss Hollywood. And with the intention to have sex with Jack and be free in the real world. Because apparently, so they gave weird nicknames to humans and toons. Because I guess they couldn't call it toons because it'd be too much like Roger Rabbit. I think Bonkers was on TV at this time too. So humans are called Noids. For some reason, all I think is that stupid thing from the Domino's commercials. Noid. By the way, there was an NES game on the Noid. Yo Noid, it was called. And the tunes are called doodles. Doodles. So it is forbidden for a doodle to have sex with a Noid because they turn into Noids and they can jump into the real world, which is a no-no. Wait a minute. If they can only jump through as humans, then why the professor later is able to live in the real world? So maybe they can jump. Maybe my head's hurting again. We went through this before. Trying to figure this out. Okay, so I've never hated this movie, but the ending is so frustrating because of how they do it. But anyway, so we start in 1940s. Frank is released from World War II, and his mom, despite saying she's trying to cook dinner, he takes her on a motorcycle ride, and they encounter a drunk couple that causes them to have an accident. Frank's mom dies, and he gets sucked into the cool world by the professor. 47 years later, we meet Jack, who is a convict, serving jail time toward the end of his sentence for supposedly, we don't know what it was until later after he gets out and he looks through the comic books. But he believes he created this cool world as a comic book, but it turns out they were just visions being brought to him. So I'm going to correct something. So I watched the Nostalgia Critic's review on this, okay? And he said it made no sense that they were just popping back and forth. That Frank was popping back and forth. Or Jack was popping back and forth. Obviously, Holly was bringing him there. How she was able to do that, I don't know. But that's what it seemed like, to me at least, that she was bringing him back and forth seducing him so they could have sex, and eventually that happens. There's also some forced story with Jack's neighbors and this neighbor girl who you could have sworn was Carrie Washington, because she looks just like Carrie Washington in Honey I Blew Up the Kids, which came out the same year, but it's not her, and she doesn't really do much. By the way, this also has a climax that takes place in Vegas. Now, that's one thing, but it doesn't do much. She drives Jack and Frank to the hotel, to the plaza, to Vegas. That's it. So you're gonna notice that there's a lot of excess animation, for lack of a better term, going on in certain scenes. Sometimes when you're trying to hear what the characters are talking, you just hear cartoons going through it. It's, I don't know, Ralph Bakshi just wanted to add extra cartoons to it. I don't know. So Ralph Bakshi, who directed this film, apparently wanted something different. A hard R horror film about this, a guy and a doodle, they have sex and they have a child. And it's about the child who becomes like an evil creature and decides he realizes he doesn't belong in either world. And which kind of would have been better, but the studio interfered. 2 other people were assigned to rewrite the script, and it was made PG-13. Thank you, Frank Mancuso Jr., for screwing it up. Yeah, Bakshi was basically shut out of his own movie and still had to direct something he didn't even write. He went to Paramount with the script, they bought it, and then they rewrote it. And I always say, why do you buy the fucking scripts if you're gonna have them rewritten? It never makes any sense to me. Yeah, we like that enough to buy it, but let's change half of it. What's the point? Why buy the script if you're just gonna change it? It happens way too many times in Hollywood where, oh yeah, we're gonna buy that script and then we're gonna hire 2 more writers in to change most of it. So yeah, they end up, fucking, and then, they do it, and Holly turns into Kim Basinger, and all the good acting she did went away. Yeah, the acting in this is not good by any means. She was better as a tune. Her voice acting was better than real life, because whatever she's trying to play at with this character doesn't work. Gabriel Byrne barely gets a word in edgewise in this film to do anything, and whatever the fuck Brad Pitt is trying to do doesn't work. Now, I know he's from the 1940s, so he's going to act, and he's going to talk differently. But he's like, hey, come on, man, you do this, you can. I don't know. I like Nails, his cartoon sidekick that goes around, or his doodle sidekick that goes around with him. Although he is, quote unquote, killed partway through when he tries to stop Holly because he's an idiot. So Frank tells him, hey, don't do anything without me. Call me first and come get me. So he realizes what Holly is trying to do. That he realizes it's happened. By the way, I have an issue with this. So as they are doing it, it seems to me that every tune or every doodle around seems to feel this, seems to know that it's happening, right? But, Nails doesn't feel anything, and neither does Frank's doodle girlfriend, Lynette. So I don't know, but to make it looks to me like the doodles can sense when this is happening. I don't know. Maybe they have to be in facility, but Nails is, he's in his office, and then he calls Frank and decides he's not going to tell Frank, and he goes to do it himself, and then we find out that ink pens are lethal to doodles, so she kills him, but you find out he's actually just sucked into the ink pen. And she takes the pen with her, and they go to the real world. And then Frank is forced to go back to the real world for the first time since 1946. Yes. 1942, right? 42, 47. No. I'm trying to think. It's 1992 minus 47 years. Can't do that in my head. But, so, I was confused at first because when they show him back, he's got blood on him. And what? And I realized, oh, he's just like he was when he went in to Cool World back in the 40s. He's still bloody from the accident, which is weird because he's not a doodle in that world. He's annoyed. He's human. I don't know. It's confusing. But Jack slowly starts to realize that he has been used. And she decides, she has to go to this hotel, this big casino hotel, and get this spike. This very spike the professor used to bring Frank into Brad Pitt. Frank into Cool World. And once you know what the professor is there, disguised as the prince from Happily Ever After, basically. And then she tries to duck him into the pen, but it pops him for some reason, because when that didn't, yeah. So Jack, Frank, and the neighbor girl show up, and while Frank goes up to stop her, Jack and the neighbor girl put the professor back together. But I should mention that after coming back to the real world, Jack and Holly are constantly back and forth between being twins. And so this leads to a scuffle on the side of the building where she asks Frank for help. But she turns into a doodle and pushes him off the building, killing him. That's it for Brad Pitt, everyone. His live action part, anyway. So, she gets to the spike and starts to activate it, which is like mixing Cool World and our world together. Frank suddenly has doodle powers. Jack suddenly has doodle powers and stretches himself up there. And then the movie's ruined by the ending. So, as mentioned, Gabriel Byrne is a great actor, and he couldn't get awarded in Edgewise earlier. He's just sort of being pushed through the script. However, the finale of this is the worst that they do to him in this film. Because he comes in contact with this thing. She turns back into a doodle, into herself. And he comes in contact with the spike, and he becomes a doodle. But it's not a doodle version of himself. He becomes this doodle superhero, not even voiced by Gabriel Byrne. It's voiced by Maurice LaMarche. And he's doing a good job, but this takes me out of the movie. Because, we need to see Jack, god damn it. We need to see Jack taking her down. And what we get is Super Toon Dude doing this. It's not even Gabriel Byrne doing the voice. It just doesn't work. Right? And he gets confused. He's gonna give her the spike, but then when one of the henchmen dudes pop up, he's like, "Oh, it's a trick," and then he puts it back and resets everything. They get sucked back into the Cool World, and then Nails, who is still alive because the pen dropped, it broke, so he's free. He goes back into Cool World and he and the professor, I guess, take Frank's body back to Lunette. And then this is where we find out that if you were killed by a doodle and you're in Cool World, you'll be turned into a doodle. The problem is, like most times they do stuff like this in movies, he doesn't change till after they mention this. Wouldn't it make more sense if he changed and they were confused about it at first, and then they bring him back into Cool World? She's like, "Oh, what happened? He died. She pushed him off a building. Wait, was she a doodle when it happened? Yeah, that's why he's here, you know." But no, as soon as she says it, then he turns into the doodle, and they live happily ever after. They can finally do it. That's the thing. And then we see that Jack is stuck in his superhero form and annoying Holly for the rest of their lives. And that's not how that should have ended at all. I felt like the ending should have been that, because the professor, he's trying to warn about the spike, saying it's not going to do anything. I felt like maybe it does what she wants, but it takes all of the energy from her, all the Noid energy, all the dual energy, and kills her. So Jack has to go up and reset it. They're sacrificing himself or something. All this does is solve the issue, I don't know, of them being, now they're all cartoons. I don't know, it just doesn't really, because then again you have that plot thread, like, here's the thing, he stops her, and then gets with the neighbor girl, right? Otherwise, what is the hell is she doing there? She's their ride to Vegas, and she doesn't really do anything outside of that. By the way, there's a scene with Frank Sinatra Jr. and Holly as they sing "Let's Make Love." I don't know. And I don't know what kind of performance that Kim Basinger is doing when she's human. It just, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. She's trying to be more animated. I don't know. It just doesn't work. It doesn't. And after she's turned human, she wears this horrible costume. It's like coveralls and glasses. And it's like, is she trying to hide? Because as soon as she gets to the real world, she puts her sexy clothes back on. So I was like, is she trying to hide? She already has a confrontation with Frank. Right? Or no? She has or it's Nails, and Nails knows who she is. I don't know. I'm gonna give it a middle of the road because there was some good things about it, but I'm not in a hurry to rewatch it, you know. But yeah, so what are your thoughts on Cool World? Let me know in the comments below. Sure, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'm Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.